My parents gave my college fund to my sister and said she actually deserves it. So I worked 3 jobs, became a millionaire, and watched them be. Before I continue with today's story, I'd love for you to support our channel. And while you're at it, drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from. We love seeing how far our stories travel. I was 17 when my world shattered over lukewarm spaghetti. "Ruby, we need to talk about college," Dad said, not meeting my eyes. Mom fidgeted with her napkin and my younger sister Brianna smirked into her phone. That smirk should have warned me. I'd been valedictorian bound at Riverside High, pulling straight A's while juggling debate team and volunteering at the community center. My acceptance letter to Howard University sat framed in my room. Full tuition was covered by scholarships, but I needed that $47,000 fund. Money Grandma Rose left me before she died, for housing, books, everything else. "Your sister needs it more," Mom finally said. The fork slipped from my hand, clattering against my plate. "What?" "Brianna's struggling," Dad added quickly. "Her grades aren't scholarship material. She needs that money to even get into college." "That's my money. Grandma left it specifically for me." My voice cracked. I remembered Grandma's wrinkled hands holding mine. "Your special baby girl. This'll give you the wings I never had." Brianna finally looked up, flipping her box braids. "Some of us aren't natural geniuses, Ruby. Mom and Dad think I actually deserve a chance too." "She actually deserves it," Mom echoed, and those 4 words branded themselves into my soul. I got a 4.0 GPA. "I worked for this." "And you'll get scholarships," Dad said dismissively. "Brianna needs help. It's already decided. We're her parents too." The betrayal tasted like copper in my mouth. That night I heard them through the walls, laughing. Brianna said, "Thanks for choosing the daughter who actually needs you." I realized then I was completely alone. The next morning I found the bank statements Mom left carelessly on the kitchen counter. The college fund, completely emptied. Transfer date, 2 weeks ago. They'd planned this. "You went behind my back?" I confronted them before school, my hands shaking. "We're your parents. We don't need your permission," Mom said coldly, sipping her coffee like she hadn't just stolen my future. My guidance counselor, Mrs. Patterson, a kind black woman who'd mentored me for years, found me crying in her office 3rd period. "Baby, what happened?" Through sobs I explained everything. Her face hardened. "That money was legally yours. Your grandmother designated you as the beneficiary. They're my parents. They had access. Doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it legal." She grabbed her phone. "I'm calling a lawyer I know. Pro bono work." But when the lawyer, Mr. Tuskegee, reviewed everything, his face fell. "Your parents were joint account holders since you were a minor. Technically they had legal authority. Fighting this would cost more than the fund itself, and there's no guarantee." I felt hollow. The system failed me. My own blood failed me. That night I made a decision. I withdrew my Howard acceptance. I couldn't afford it without that money, wouldn't beg for loans my parents would never co-sign. Instead, I enrolled at Riverside Community College. $1,200 per semester, paid with my part-time savings from working at Target. "You're giving up, Howard?" Mrs. Patterson looked devastated. "I'm not giving up," I corrected her, steel entering my voice. "I'm changing strategies." Mom actually looked relieved. "Community college is more realistic anyway." That word, realistic. Like my dreams were childish fantasies. I became a ghost in my own home. I worked the opening shift at Target, 5 a.m. to 1 p.m., then classes until 6 p.m., then overnight custodial work at Riverside Medical Center until 2 a.m. 4 hours of sleep. Repeat. My 3rd job came through Mrs. Patterson's husband, Marcus, who owned a small digital marketing firm. "You're smart, Ruby. I'll teach you the business. $15 an hour, weekends. Within 2 months, I was running their social media, learning analytics, copywriting, client management. Marcus saw something in me. You've got an entrepreneur's mind. Don't waste it. At home, Brianna paraded around in new clothes bought with MY money. Mom and Dad praised her C+ grades like she'd cured cancer. We're so proud you're trying, baby. Meanwhile, I was invisible. I'd come home at 2:30 a.m. and Mom would complain about the noise. Some of us have work in the morning, Reby. I wanted to scream that I'd been working for 21 hours straight, but I swallowed it. Let them underestimate me. One night, I collapsed during my hospital shift. My coworker, an older woman named Dorothy, found me in the supply closet. Baby girl, you're killing yourself. I don't have a choice. Yes, you do. You choose to survive this or you let them break you. She pressed an energy bar into my hand. Don't let them break you. 6 months in, I'd saved $8,000, maintaining a 4.0 at community college while Brianna failed out of the state university my money funded. $50,000, gone in 2 semesters of partying. Dad didn't even look angry. College isn't for everyone. I said nothing. But I remembered everything. Marcus called me into his office on a Saturday morning 9 months into my grind. His firm, Davidson Digital, occupied a modest suite in downtown Riverside, but he was pulling 6 figures annually. Reby, sit. He closed the door, his expression serious. I'm promoting you to junior consultant. $25 an hour. But more importantly, I want to teach you something. He pulled up spreadsheets, business models, client acquisition costs. This is how you build real wealth. Not trading time for money forever. You build systems. You scale. For 3 hours he showed me his entire operation. Revenue streams. Profit margins. How he'd started with nothing 7 years ago and built this. Why are you showing me this? I asked, suspicious of kindness now. Because my wife tells me your story. Because I grew up with nothing too. Parents who told me I'd never be nothing. And because you remind me of myself at 17. Hungry, angry, and smart enough to weaponize both. Something shifted in me. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was learning. Marcus became more than a boss. He assigned me books. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Lean Startup, 0 to 1. We discussed them during lunch breaks. He introduced me to his network. Other Black entrepreneurs who'd built something from nothing. One was Jasmine Crawford, who'd started a meal prep company in her apartment and now ran a $3 million operation. The system's rigged against us, she told me over coffee. So we build our own systems. At home, Mom noticed my new books. Don't get too big for your britches, Reby. You're still living under our roof. For now, I said quietly. Her eyes narrowed, but she said nothing. 13 months after the betrayal, I landed my first independent client through Marcus's network. A local Black-owned restaurant, Mama Trey's Kitchen, needed social media management. They paid me $800 monthly. I was terrified, excited, alive. Within 3 months, I'd tripled their Instagram engagement and increased their weekend reservations by 40%. Mr. Trey, the owner, was ecstatic. Girl, you got magic in those fingers. Not magic. Strategy, I corrected, but I was smiling. Word spread. 2 more clients. Then 4. I was making $3,000 monthly on top of my other jobs, sleeping 3 hours nightly, but I'd never felt more powerful. I opened a separate bank account my parents knew nothing about. By month 18 I had $27,000 saved. At family dinner, the obligatory Sunday ritual I still endured, Brianna complained about her new retail job. It's so beneath me. The customers are rude, the pay is trash. Maybe if you'd stayed in school, I muttered. What was that? Mom snapped. Nothing. Dad pointed his fork at me. Your sister's going through a tough time. Show some compassion. Compassion. They'd show me none. But I bit my tongue. I was 20 months from freedom. I could endure anything for 20 months. That night Marcus texted me. Client referral. Tech startup. $2,000 monthly retainer. You ready? My hands shook typing. Yes. This was the moment everything changed. The startup, called Urban Roots, was 3 Black developers building an app connecting urban farmers with local restaurants. They needed brand strategy, social media, everything. I said yes without hesitation. The Urban Roots contract was my graduate school. The founders, Deshaun, Malik and Tasha, were brilliant, driven and saw me as an equal despite being years younger. We worked 16-hour days building their brand from scratch. You've got instincts, Tasha told me during a late-night strategy session. Most consultants give us templates. You give us truth. 6 months in, Urban Roots secured a $500,000 seed investment. The founders tripled my retainer to $6,000 monthly and gave me 0.5% equity. I was 19 years old, making more monthly than Dad's factory salary. I still lived at home, still invisible. They had no idea. One evening, Brianna brought home her new boyfriend, Devin. He was loud, disrespectful, tracking mud through the house. Mom and Dad said nothing, desperate to keep Brianna happy. Your sister found a good man, Mom told me, as if Devin's existence was some accomplishment. I'd been single for 2 years, focused entirely on building. No time for relationships. No trust left in me for vulnerability. My community college advisor, Professor Williams, pulled me aside after class. Ruby, your GPA is perfect. You need to transfer to a 4-year university. You're wasting your potential here. I can't afford full scholarship to state. I recommended you. They're offering full ride plus $10,000 annual stipend. Say yes. I cried in my car for an hour. Someone believed in me. I accepted. Business major, marketing concentration. I'd keep my consulting clients, keep grinding, but now with a bachelor's degree in sight. At dinner that night, I announced my transfer. That's nice, Dad said absently. Brianna rolled her eyes. Teacher's pet. Mom said nothing. Their indifference used to devastate me. No. Fuel. State University was 30 miles away. I moved into a studio apartment. $650 monthly, my first real freedom. The day I left, Mom didn't even come out of her bedroom. Dad helped carry boxes, silent and uncomfortable. You know, we did what we thought was right, he finally said, setting down my last box. Did you? I looked at him directly. Or did you do what was easiest? He left without answering. University was different. I wasn't the broke, desperate girl anymore. I was a business owner. My consulting firm, KR Strategies, now had 8 clients generating $15,000 monthly. I hired 2 state students as part-time assistants, paying them generously. Professor Martinez, my business strategy teacher, was a former Silicon Valley executive. She saw my operation and laughed. Ruby, you don't need my class. You're already doing what I'm teaching. I need the degree for credibility. Smart. She leaned forward. But you need to scale bigger. You're trading time for money still. Let me introduce you to some people. Those introductions changed everything. Venture capitalists, angel investors, successful entrepreneurs. Professor Martinez's network was golden and she opened doors freely. One contact was Simone Jeffries, a Black woman who'd built and sold 3 companies. Over lunch she studied me carefully. You got the hunger. But do you have the vision? What do you really want? Freedom, I answered immediately. Complete financial independence. I never want anyone to have power over me again. She smiled. Now that's a mission I can work with. Simone became my informal advisor, teaching me about equity, business models, exit strategies. She invested $50,000 into KR strategies for 15% equity, and suddenly I had capital to hire a real team. I was 21 when my phone rang at midnight. I almost didn't answer. "Ruby, we need help." Her voice was panicked, unfamiliar. "Your father lost his job. We're 3 months behind on the mortgage. The bank is threatening foreclosure." I sat in my apartment, now comfortably furnished, looking at my business bank account. $127,000. I could solve their problem with a fraction of my wealth. "What about Brianna?" I asked coldly. "She and Devon are struggling too. They can't help. And you thought of me." Silence. "Then, you're our daughter. Family helps family. Like you helped me." The words came out sharp, years of swallowed rage breaking through. "Like you stole my inheritance and gave it to Brianna, who partied it away in 18 months? We gave her an opportunity. You gave her my opportunity. You told me she deserved it more. You made me homeless in my own home. I worked 3 jobs, slept 4 hours a night, and you didn't notice or care. Now you want my help. Ruby, please. We'll lose the house." Something in me wanted to cave, to be the good daughter. But I remembered Grandma Rose's voice. "Don't let anyone dim your light, baby. Not even family." "I'll think about it," I said and hung up. Marcus's advice echoed in my mind. People who wouldn't invest in you at your lowest don't deserve access to you at your highest. Simone was more direct. They made their choices. You're not responsible for fixing their consequences. But they were still my parents. And I still remembered when things were good, before Brianna, before the favoritism. I called back the next morning. "I'll pay 2 months' mortgage. $4,300. That's it. You figure out the rest." Mom's relief was palpable. "Thank you, baby. We'll pay you back." "No, you won't. Consider it payment for the childhood bedroom I rented. We're even now." "Ruby." I hung up, drew the boundary, held firm. 3 months later, Urban Roots got acquired. The tech giant paid $12 million. My 0.5% equity translated to $60,000 after taxes. At 21 years old, I had nearly $200,000 in liquid assets and a consulting firm generating $20,000 monthly profit. I was a millionaire by every meaningful metric. Marcus took me to dinner to celebrate. "You did it, kid. Most people spend their whole lives chasing what you've built in 4 years." "I'm not done," I told him. The hunger hadn't diminished. It had evolved. Simone connected me with a venture capital firm looking for a marketing director. They offered $120,000 annually plus equity. I took it, hiring a manager to run KR Strategies' daily operations. I bought my first property, a small 2-bedroom condo in a gentrifying neighborhood. $180,000 paid cash. No mortgage. True ownership. The feeling was intoxicating. My parents didn't know about any of this. To them, I was still the college student working retail. I kept that boundary deliberately. But Riverside was small. Word traveled. Uncle Marcus, my father's brother, saw me at a restaurant with Simone and Professor Martinez. We were discussing my next venture. He approached, confused. "Ruby, what are you doing at Carmine's?" The implication clear. This place was expensive. "Business dinner," I said coolly. He noticed my outfit. Tailored blazer, professional but clearly expensive. My MacBook Pro. My confidence. "You doing okay? Your parents mentioned you're struggling." I smiled. "They mentioned wrong. I'm doing exceptionally well. Enjoy your dinner, Uncle Marcus." The look on his face was priceless. 2 days later, Dad called. Marcus said he saw you at some fancy restaurant. What's going on? I had a business meeting. What business? You're a college student. I own a marketing consulting firm. I'm also a director at a venture capital company. Anything else you'd like to know about your daughter's life? Stunned silence. They showed up at my condo unannounced on a Saturday morning. I just returned from the gym, sweaty in my Lululemon gear, when the doorbell rang. Mom, Dad, and Brianna stood there, mouths literally open. You own this? Mom whispered, staring at my modern, beautiful space. Yes. Paid cash. I didn't invite them in. Brianna's eyes were calculating, jealous. How? By working 3 jobs while you partied away my inheritance. By building a business while you complained about retail. By making sacrifices you can't imagine. I looked at my parents. By doing it completely alone. Dad's face crumbled. We didn't know. Because you didn't care to know. I was invisible unless you needed something. Now I'm successful and suddenly I exist again. I laughed bitterly. That's not how this works. We're your family, Mom said desperately. We made mistakes, but we love you. You loved Brianna. You tolerated me. The truth hung between us. You told me she deserved my future more. So I built a different future. One you have no part in. Brianna stepped forward. Look, I'm sorry about the college fund thing, okay? But you're doing fine now. Actually, I need some help. Devin left me, I've got credit card debt. No. The word was absolute. Ruby, please, Dad interjected. Your sister needs help. You have so much. I have what I built. What I earned through blood, sweat, and tears you never acknowledged. Brianna had every advantage, every dollar of support, every bit of love and encouragement. She squandered it. Those are consequences, not my problem to fix. Mom was crying now. When did you become so cold? When my family chose to be cold to me first. I stepped back into my doorway. You're not welcome here. Don't come back unless invited. I closed the door on their shocked faces. My hands shook, but my heart felt lighter than it had in years. Word spread through Riverside. The daughter who'd been written off was now the most successful person in her family. The whispers followed me everywhere. Mrs. Patterson cried when I visited the high school with a $50,000 donation for their scholarship fund. Ruby, baby, I always knew you'd do something special. You believed in me when no one else did. This is just the beginning. I established the Rosa Williams Memorial Scholarship, named for Grandma Rose, specifically for students from broken homes working multiple jobs to afford education. $10,000 annually to 5 students. The local newspaper wanted to interview me. Local entrepreneur builds $1 million success after family hardship. I agreed, telling my story publicly for the first time. My parents were humiliated. Their church friends, neighbors, everyone knew they'd stolen my inheritance and failed to support me. The social consequences were severe in our tight-knit Black community. Brianna posted vague social media rants about fake family and sisters who forget where they came from. I blocked her. But the interview brought unexpected connections. Other young Black women reached out, sharing their stories of family betrayal and financial abuse. I started a mentorship program teaching them what Marcus and Simone taught me. One mentee, 17-year-old Amara, reminded me of myself, brilliant, broke, and betrayed by people who should have protected her. My mom keeps taking my paycheck to pay her boyfriend's bills, she confided. Open a separate account. Direct deposit there. Don't tell her, I advised, teaching her the survival strategies I'd learned. My company was thriving. KR Strategies landed a contract with a major corporation. $250,000 annually. My VC firm promoted me to senior director, $180,000 salary. At 23, I'd built more wealth than my parents would see in their lifetimes. But the success felt hollow without reconciliation. Part of me still wanted their genuine pride, their real love. That part was learning to die. Dad showed up at my office on a Tuesday afternoon, looking 10 years older than his 55 years. My assistant tried to stop him, but I waved her off. "You have 5 minutes, I told him. He sat heavily in the chair across from my desk, the same desk where I negotiated 6-figure deals. "Your mother's sick. Cancer. Stage 3. The world tilted. Despite everything, she was still my mother. "What kind?" "Breast. She needs treatment. Our insurance is minimal since I'm working contract jobs now. The out-of-pocket costs." He trailed off, looking at me hopefully. And I understood. This was why he came. Not to apologize, not to reconcile. To ask for money. "How much?" My voice was flat. $75,000 for the treatment plan her oncologist recommends. But if that's too much, even $30,000 would help with the first rounds. "I'll pay for her treatment. All of it. Directly to the hospital." I held up a hand as his face flooded with relief. "But understand this. I'm doing this because I'm not like you. I don't abandon family when they're desperate. But this doesn't fix what you broke. This doesn't erase the years you chose Brianna over me, or the inheritance you stole. We know we failed you," he said quietly. "Every day I see it. You were the daughter who had everything together, so we thought you'd be fine. We thought Brianna needed more attention. We were wrong. You didn't think I'd be fine. You thought I was easier to ignore." I leaned forward. "You know what the saddest part is? I would have helped Brianna too if you'd just asked. If you'd respected me enough to include me in the decision. But you stole from me and told her she deserved it more. You broke something that can't be fixed. Can't you forgive us? Maybe someday. But forgiveness doesn't mean I forget. And it doesn't mean you get access to my life." He nodded slowly, defeated. "Thank you for helping your mother. I'm not doing it for you. Mom survived. The treatment worked. I paid $83,000 total, never visiting the hospital, communicating only through doctors. She sent letters I didn't open. On my 25th birthday, I stood on the balcony of my new penthouse. $450,000, again paid cash, overlooking Riverside. My company was valued at $3 million. My investment portfolio had hit 7 figures. I'd been featured in Forbes, 30 Under 30. Marcus and his wife threw me a party. Simone flew in from New York. Professor Martinez brought champagne. My ments came 50 young women I'd helped escape similar situations. Amara, now thriving at Spelman, gave a toast that made me cry. "Reby taught me that success isn't just about making money," she said. "It's about refusing to let people who diminished you define you. It's about building a life so good that their approval becomes irrelevant." My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. "Happy birthday. Your mother and I are proud of you. We know we have no right to be, but we are." I stared at those words for a long time. The part of me that was still 17 and devastated wanted to cry, wanted to run back to them and rebuild. But the woman I'd become knew better. I typed, "Thank you. I hope you're both well." Then I put my phone away and rejoined my real family. The people who chose me, believed in me, invested in me when it mattered. Later that night, Marcus raised his glass. To Reby, who turned betrayal into empire, who transformed pain into purpose. You didn't just survive, kid. You conquered. I smiled, finally at peace. They'd tried to break me by taking my future. Instead, they'd freed me to build something greater than they could ever imagine. I didn't need their validation anymore. I had my own. And that was the ultimate victory. Not wealth or success. but the profound liberation of no longer needing anything from people who'd given me nothing when it mattered most. I was free. Completely, finally, beautifully free. And I'd done it all myself.